Hi, this is recording your first song in Cubase 12. My name is Brandon, and today we get to do what I was so excited to learn about my first time, making drums with a MIDI keyboard. It is such an amazing technology, and myself being primarily a guitarist, I never really learned how to drum. I don't have access to a drum set right now, but I can make any type of drum sound I want. And I'm going to show you that in this video. This is actually my second try at this video. The first try I had some audio issues, which we are going to address right now. So if you'll open up Cubase, you're going to want to click over here on the More tab and click empty. That's the one you're going to do. I made a separate empty thing so you guys can see there's some extra routing so you guys can see my keyboard. So I'm going to open this, but you guys should open this. I like to prompt for project location because I save my project on a different drive, but you can use the default location if you want. Let me show you what that looks like. So I'm in this drive, project files, Cubase. This is a tutorial. I already have a folder for that. There was the first time I screwed up my audio, recorded the whole thing, and most of it just didn't work. I've since fixed that, so I'm going to make a new one. So Control-Shift-N is a new folder. First, Cubase song try 2. We're going to select that folder, and here's your project. It's open. We're ready to go. Right off the bat, let's address any audio issues that could be happening. Click F4. This is your audio connections. You're going to want to make sure that your stereo in audio device is selected and not connected. The issue that I had before is my output the whole time was not connected, and even though I was hearing the sounds of the drums, it wasn't recording them to OBS, which is how I screen capture. So yeah, you're just going to want to make sure both of those have your audio interface selected, and that should solve a lot of issues. If you want to make sure your control room is off as well, that might also help. Okay, and then the other thing is, if you click a key on your keyboard, you'll see on the bottom right, if it's working, you'll have MIDI activity in every time you click. So if your MIDI keyboard is working, you'll see that. If not, you might want to make sure it's turned on or plugged in, or if you're still having issues, Studio Setup, MIDI Port Setup. I'm not going to go into detail on that right now, but that's where you'd start to look. Okay, let's get to it. Pretty simple. Go over here to this box, right-click, Add Instrument Track. And for the most part, even though this looks intimidating, you'll only use the top two. We'll talk about some of the others later on, but those are the basic ones. Groove Agent SE comes with Cubase, so that's what we're going to use to test our drum sounds and to start making a track. So make sure that's selected, and you can name it. Let's go with just drums and add track. Cool. So here's your virtual instrument. This is the track you just made. It is automatically record enabled. There should be. If it's not, make sure that that button is red so that it allows it to record. And then before we go any further, I made a completely free to you one sheet list of the shortcuts that I use in Cubase on a daily basis. It's gonna save you so much time to learn these shortcuts, and it's for free. Just click the link in the description and download that. It will be a lifesaver to you, I promise. Yeah, and I'll try and mention my shortcuts as I go and what I'm clicking, and if I miss something, in case you didn't see, in the bottom left hand of the screen, it shows exactly what I click or type in. But yeah, that shortcut sheet, it's going to be really good. Go ahead and go grab that. Great. Okay, so I've got this instrument open. I got drums. My track is selected. If I just hit my keyboard, what? It's not working. Why don't I have sound? Well, you do, most likely. But you gotta tell it which kit you want it to use. Right now, it doesn't have any instruments. So go up to this little box right here that opens up this selection. If you just start over here, you'll probably see something like that. I'm going to use this. I'm going to use the pop kit. And actually, it's only showing pop kit because I typed it in. That's another thing you can do. There's all these kits over here. Let's say I know I want the pop kit. I'm going to type in pop kit, double click on pop kit 1. All of a sudden, it's got all these sounds. It shows you the wave file for each of them. You can click on these buttons, but that would be hard to try and record with. So that's why we have a MIDI keyboard. I'm not a great drummer, but I can at least, even if you have to do one at a time, you can type them in. So yeah, we already have sounds, and that's so cool. We have a drum kit right at our fingers just with a keyboard. You may have noticed a discrepancy. I will quickly explain to the best of my knowledge. Cubase is a European company. Their C3 is our C4, as far as I understand. So when it says C1 here, and it says C2 on the keyboard beneath the screen, those are the same trigger. It's just one is a software made by an American company and the other is by a European, so they're going to not show the same. But it's not that big of a deal. Just find the keys that work on your keyboard, and yeah. Okay, so another thing is this is customizable. I will say it quickly. If you'll notice, I do B, A, G. Personally, I want the highest tom to be on the B and not on the A. That's just a preference of mine. So you can drag and swap easily. I know I want that middle tom, that middle sounding pitched tom, to be on A. So I'm just going to drag that, and it says it has a swap signal. And now it is working how I want. So you can change the keyboard as much as you want, but it's pretty standard to have hi-hat F sharp, kick on C, and snare on D. Those are like the most basic. But yeah, so if you use different drum plugins like Not Groove Agent, they'll work pretty similarly. So you might want to stick with the standard so that any new drum kit you try is already mapped to what you're used to playing. So say you don't want to type something in, or it's kind of hard and you can't figure out how to type in. The other thing you can do is go to this pattern button. If you just hold your mouse down, it'll audition it. Really cool. And I believe it does that to whatever tempo you have the project at. Let's check. So this is the tempo box down here. I'm going to just drag it down, click and drag, and see. Yep, so it follows whatever tempo you have, which is really cool. The easiest way to get this in after auditioning it is just click and drag. There it is. So I'm gonna, if I X that out, it doesn't get rid of the drums, it just gets rid of the editor. So you can still play. And one of the hotkeys on my sheet that I offered you is Alt-J. If your track is highlighted, click Alt-J, it opens it back up. Alternatively, you can click this little Edit Instrument button, or I think this one, Edit Instrument, the little keyboard there. So there's 3 ways to do it, whatever's easier for you. I think Alt-J, if you can get used to that, is just so much faster. And if you click Z, another of my hotkeys, it makes your current track bigger. So you can see more what's going on. But actually, we're gonna double click on this and zoom on in. So this is your MIDI editor. One of the hotkeys that I like to use is Control and mouse wheel to zoom in or out, and it goes to where your mouse is. So if I zoomed in at this 4 mark over here, it'd go into there. And then Shift mouse wheel moves left and right. Those are huge. They will save you so much time. Definitely use those. So here's the notes. If you click on one, D, that's the snare. It'll sound the snare. Right? And you can see this velocity panel here. You can make it smaller or bigger. That's how hard you're hitting the drum. That's how loud it will be. So if you want that snare hit to be soft, you can just draw it down there. So right now it's, if you look at my mouse cursor, it's a little pencil or marker. Now, sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating if there's multiple notes on the same beat. As you can see, we have one at 50 and one at 100. The snare is at 50. If you kind of just drag a little bit to the left or the right, it lets you choose one or the other. Or so I thought. Ah. Okay. I actually didn't know this. This is new to me and very useful. If you want to do just the note and you have multiple notes, Control Shift lets you mouse just that note. That is so useful. Hey, you guys are teaching me new things out of me teaching myself. That's useful. Control Shift. I like that. So that lets you select just the one. Before we go on any more with editing this sort of stuff, let's just record our own. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to start at 1. I've got my metronome on. This is the metronome down here. C is the hotkey. I've got that on that sheet I've offered you guys. So it turns it on and off, or you can just click it. And then record is the numpad asterisk or star. I'm not sure what you would call that. Pretty simple. Just play along. We're going to double click, go in here, check it out. And say you want to see like a little bit more height on those notes. You're going to click, this is also in the sheet, please go get it, Shift H. Makes them bigger. And then I'm going to move that down a bit. Okay, so, and Shift G goes the other way. Okay, so not bad, but check this out. Look how off I am. I'm human, and I sped a lot, and I did not focus on playing in time. And there's a quick fix for that. You can Control A to select all, or you can box. And then if you click Q to quantize, moves it to the grid. And up here, top, is what you're quantizing to. So eighth notes was fine because that's all I played. But if I had played 16th notes and tried to quantize to an eighth note, all of those 16th notes would have chosen one or the other which way to go, and that would have sounded terrible. So you have to quantize to what you played, so if that makes sense. Also over here, you'll notice the quantized strength is at 80%. So it didn't completely make it perfect. You can see I'm still ahead of the beat there of that line, but it's gonna sound a lot closer. So you can do 100%. That's going to sound kind of robotic. It's up to you. So let's say that I wanted my hi-hat to be a little softer. I would just select the F sharp. I would go down here, and it has this scale vertically thing. If I just do that, it's right in the middle at the top. It's going to move them all quieter, which is nice. Cool. Say I wanted a crash at the beginning. I would select this note and use our Control Shift to make it a little louder. And then if you use your arrow keys, you can change it to a different. I'm going to have it on C. Up and down just changes whatever note it's on. Cool. So there's that. If you want to move notes left or right, you have to hold down Control and the arrows, because if you don't hold down Control, it just goes to the next closest note. So if you hold Control, it moves it. So say I wanted it to be there for some reason, I could do that. Or you can just drag it with your mouse up or down or wherever you want. So what do I want to say about this? It moves it by whatever the grid is. So there's that. Also, you can, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see this better. You can grab the end of a note, make it longer. This doesn't really apply to drums, but in keyboards or synths or other stuff that has sustained tones, this is a big deal, making notes longer or shorter. You can also quantize the ends of notes. If you look over here, quantize lengths, quantize ends. If I quantize the end, it would go to the closest eighth note. If I'm on this side of it, I don't know. It still goes. So it went to the closest eighth note. That's a 16th. But it can't like just disappear, so it defaults to that. But if I was right here, it would go there. So there's that. All right. So that's kind of the basics. Oh, one more thing I will mention. This is also, I think, on the sheet. If you want to transpose by an octave quickly without doing that 12 times, you just hold down Shift. So that is a big time saver as well. So that's kind of editing. Oh, one more thing I'll show you. So along with this scale vertically thing, to make everything louder or quieter that you have selected, you can also tilt. Left is softer, or right is softer or louder. And you can also scale on this right around absolute center. It makes the louder louder, the softer softer, or it brings them all closer together. So that might be useful. Also, something that is in that sheet, Alt side slash, I'm not sure what you would call that, shows what you have down here. Like, for example, another thing you can see besides velocity, this is called CC values. You might see a sustain pedal value down there if we had recorded that and we were playing piano or something. Right now, velocity is the only other data set that's being used. If you want to completely get rid of those, Alt-L removes them or brings them back. If you want to just see the notes, save space. So those are very useful too. When you're done with this, you can either exit out at the top, or you can just click Enter on your keyboard, and it brings you back to this main screen. If you'd like to see both at the same time, that's where we have this beautiful lower zone, which has a hotkey I almost never use, because I don't use the lower zone very often. But in it, you can see the editor, half screened if you want, or the mix console, which, by the way I prefer to see mix console is just click F3. Opens the whole thing in big screen. If you have more than one screen, you can move it off to the side and always have it open, or you can just click it when you need it. That's what I prefer to do. Well, speaking of all that, this top right stuff shows and hides zones. So if we don't want that meter in the way, we want more space to see our track, just get rid of that. Right? This also shows media like loops, which we'll get to. But yeah, and then you can show or hide the left zone, which is your instrument, inspector, and all of that, which I think is important most of the time to have open. But if you want to save space for the moment, go ahead and close it. You can also adjust, make things smaller or larger. And then there's a bunch of other settings. You can show what's being shown. You can get rid of status lines and info lines. I like what I have selected, so I'm going to leave them. That seems to be it for this video. I know we haven't really laid down a song yet, but this was the building blocks to do that. And in closing, I'd just like to remind you that it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to have to troubleshoot stuff. This was my second time filming this video after all. I hope you found it useful. I love this stuff. On top of drums, you can do any sort of sounds that you can think of. The hardest sound to emulate with MIDI would be the human voice. Don't expect to get away with not having a lead singer if you're trying to make a rock song. Either sing it yourself or find someone else to sing it. But for the most part, MIDI can do a good job. So it's a beautiful gift to us. Also, if you are still struggling, you want personal help, I do private coaching calls. There's a link to that in the description as well. I hope you're excited to keep going with me. I love this, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. See ya.